there crafters, it's Louise with you today, and I'm sharing a scrapbook layout process video on behalf of Kitaholic Kits. Now you'll probably notice straight away that this is quite a lot different to what you'll normally see from me. Normally my layouts are all about my boys, but in the November kit we were lucky enough to get the Midnight collection from Coco Vanilla Studio, and it's beautiful and feminine, so I really thought it was time that I created a layout that was about me, and I had this cute little Snapchat kind of photo, so time to get myself on a page. Now, to begin with, I've chosen a background paper. I really like this stripe. I'm not a huge fan of pink, but I do like this stripe, so that's where I'm going to go with the background. And I've covered it with some clear gesso. So clear gesso is great because it primes the page, lets me put mediums on it, but it doesn't actually change the color of that background layout. Now what I've then done is cut some random size pieces of paper, and I'm going to use those to actually create a little cluster in the background. So for me this is just about adding elements until I'm satisfied with the page, with the cluster. So I also like to add a little bit of cardboard in the background just because it helps to break all that up and gives it that little bit of extra dimension on the page as well. So you can see that I'm using a combination of adhesives here. I'm using the staple to hold the layers together. I'm also using the tape glider, and I'm using adhesive as well. So it just does depend on how much I can fiddle around without ruining those layers as to how I will actually adhere them together. So most of the time it's with the staple in the layers, but you know, as you can see, sometimes it's tape as well. Now in the kit you also get these fabulous chipboard pieces, and I didn't start off trying to make this layout particularly floral, but that's how it turns out, and I'm not unhappy about that, but it's more just that for me using flowers is difficult. So a lot of you might find that hard to believe, as flowers are sort of a go-to product, but I actually find them quite challenging because they are probably more feminine than what I'm used to putting on layouts. So it's just in this case really getting out of my comfort zone, using florals, using different parts of this beautiful collection from Coco Vanilla Studio. So I decide that I'm fairly happy with the cluster that I've got going on. It's time to add a little bit of mixed media in the background. So I'm using a magenta metallic acrylic paint, and I've just watered it down just to help it sort of move around the page a little bit more, and it gives it that watercolor effect. So if in cases like this where I've added too much paint and I need to sort of thin it out a little bit, that's why I like acrylic paint, because you can just add a little bit of water and move it around as you please. Now as you can see, I've also added a couple of little splatters there just to help this layout really work with the sort of slightly mixed media background I've got going on there. Now I've added too much paint to my palette, so you can see that I've got quite a bit left over there, and at this stage I'm just leaving it because I may want to add a little bit more paint, but I'm just working through until I decide what I want to do. So with the cluster of flowers, I have actually got some leaves that I cut out with the Silhouette Cameo, and I've created a little area of interest, so I'm going to add a little bit more of that acrylic paint and some splatters. So at this point I have decided I'm finished with the metallic paint in the background, and I want to add just a little bit something more to my background. So I pull out this cute little butterfly stencil, and I'm using the lilac color paste, and just to add that little bit of extra dimension, and that's going to help me just to break up that page, build it together keep it mixed media. Now, because I'm finished with the acrylic paint and I've got a little bit left over, I decide I'm going to pop that into my art journal. So I basically just put it on the page, and later on I'll decide what I actually want to do with that. So everything is left to dry, and once it's all set, I come back and I'm ready to start sticking things together. I do start with the tacky glue and then decide that that's just going to take way too long. So I end up getting out my hot glue gun and then realizing that these chipboard pieces have adhesive on the background. So I peel the sticker off, peel the protector off and use the hot glue gun just to actually adhere that to the page. Now, I decide that I want just a little bit of something extra in the background, and I do that in the form of some black cotton, just a little bit, not a lot. As you can see, most of it goes under the photo cluster. That's just how I like to create and start to stick all of these elements together. Now, because I've already got my hot glue gun out and turned on, I'm going to adhere them with the hot glue gun, but it's not necessary. You could use tacky glue for this if you wanted to. It just takes that little bit longer to dry. But not only that, it also gives you that bit of extra time that you can actually move things around if you don't like where they're positioned. So at this stage, most everything is stuck down. I'm going to use the clear sticker sheet just to add that little bit extra. And I love how the flowers and the titles look off of that clear sticker sheet, because you really get the benefit of the background that you've created shining through. So a couple of little stickers and bits and pieces to go on this page, mostly just picking through all of the gorgeous elements. Deciding what I want to use on the layout is probably the hardest part of creating. You want to try and get as much onto a page as you can, but you also want to make sure that you've got enough left over for your next page. It's the scrappers challenge. So a couple of little, again, clear stickers, because I like the way they look on the background. And then what I'm going to do is just add a tiny little dab of glue to some of those cotton pieces, because I don't like how the cotton tends to move when you put it in an album. So I'm just adding a little bit of glue, and then this page is complete. So I really hope you enjoyed that from me. Definitely something different. I can't say that I'll do a lot more of this type of layout. I'm probably going to stick to what I know, and that is of course doing boys pages, but all the same, this was fun and I love how it looks. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course check out Kitaholic Kits.